tonight, we'll post it to our YouTube channel, Around Like Music. So if you know people who are going to be here but could not, uh, make sure that you send them that YouTube link. We'll post it in Canvas and on our social media. All right. So first kind of half of this presentation is going to talk about what it's like to participate in music in college. Not necessarily be a music major. When I say music major, like going to have a career in music. Talk a little bit about even getting scholarships in college by just being in a band or a choir or any other type of ensemble. We'll kind of talk about that a little bit, the audition process, and then I'll dive a little bit more into if you're here curious about actually majoring in music, going to be like a music teacher or a composer or a music therapist or audio engineer, things like that. So one thing that we'll start off with is just the different types of ensembles. You have different bands, you have different choirs up here. You have a variety of slides a variety of pictures of different ensembles. And I want you to think back of what it was like when you went from band or choir in middle school to band or choir in high school. And I know that may be a little bit hard to compare considering the pandemic, but hopefully you know that like once you go into high school, there's a lot more musical opportunities, a lot more different ensembles. We perform a lot more, do a lot more music. That same kind of thing happens from high school into college. So we go from having some concert bands, some jazz bands, a marching band, a pep band, to having a lot more concert bands, a lot more like smaller groups too. And I'm going to show you a music website here in a moment, a college website, to show you how many different things that they have. So when you go to college, you can pick and choose these different kinds of ensembles you can go to. And then kind of same thing here for choir. These are some basic ones that you can kind of find at all college levels. Your kind of standard concert choir setup. So when I'm talking choir, I'm talking about the choirs we have at around like high school. There's a lot of choirs that have specifically a gospel type of choir. Sometimes that's also called a black chorus, and does some historical traditional African-American gospel songs. You also have a lot of a cappella choirs, both whether as a class or just kind of like as a student activity that's open to you. So I'm going to switch over to webpage over here, and this is the University of Illinois School of Music. I'll move my cursor around here so you can kind of see. I think most of us here know that I went to U of I, and I'm not trying to be biased. This is just a good representation of what you can find at schools. Now, also keep in mind that U of I is a fairly large school. So with a larger school, you have more resources, you have more students, which also means you can have more ensembles. The smaller the school will probably have less ensembles, but there's also other pros to a smaller school. Like there's less students, so there's less competition. So you may want to go to a smaller school to make sure that you can get into some of those ensembles. So let's just take a quick look here. In our ensembles over here, you have our large categories of band, orchestra, choirs, jazz, and this is what I'm talking about, even more at the college level. You have opera and musical theater. There's world ensembles, modern ensembles, early music, studio and chamber. A lot of us are familiar with chamber ensembles. We do that at solo and ensemble competition. These are the ones that go year round. And then there's more options here that you can kind of look into. But let's click on these and just take a brief look at them. So when I click on band, we have a variety of bands here. And if you want to visit, I'll toss this link into the chat as well. If you want to peruse this for later. Again, University of Illinois is not the end all be all. This is just one type of example. So they have their basketball bands. We have bands that play basketball games, but you can also kind of see down here, there's the marching band that's separate. They have what's called an orange and blues band. That's a pep band. They play at volleyball games. They have 5 different concert bands here. So your campus concert band, and that usually when you're looking at colleges, they'll call kind of their intro level concert band a campus band or a university band. So if you're out here and just like, I just want to play music for fun, this is probably the band for you. Not a ton of rehearsal time, maybe like a rehearsal a week, maybe 2, with probably like 2 concerts a semester, maybe. That's where you can kind of just meet some people, have fun, play, and keep up your skills. some of these other bands that you would see on a similar college website are going to be your audition level bands. I'm just more familiar with U of I, so I can tell you that you would go campus band and university band are kind of like those intro level bands. Then you have your Hensley Symphonic Band, which is like your first audition band. Wind Orchestra is probably like the equivalent of like our symphonic band, definitely like much higher skill level. But then Wind Symphony is their top band. That's where you have like some graduate students, like people who are like your professional musicians or want to be professional musicians in there. So there's a lot of options here. When we click over to orchestra, they have 4 different orchestras here, and obviously that's more for string players, and we don't have a string program at Round Lake, but some of these orchestras also do take wind and percussion players. We have our choirs as well. And you can see a ton more choirs than what we have around Lake High School, because again, there's many more options. And there's those student activity choirs, those a cappella choirs that are not even listed on this page right now. Your chamber singers, your university course is like that equivalent of campus band or university band that I talked about. If you just want to keep singing, you can take that. And one thing I skipped over just a little bit, that university band, that campus band, or this university course, you actually take as a class just like you would at high school, and you earn college credit for it. So it's probably only like 1 credit for the class because it doesn't meet a whole lot, versus maybe you're taking, let's say you're going to be a doctor and you're taking a biology course. That's probably going to be like 3 credits, maybe 4. There's a heavy workload associated with that class. Your ensemble will be probably only 1 credit. But that also means you're paying less for that class because you do pay to go to college. But that's 1 credit that's probably, I'm not trying to make this sound in a bad way, but going to be an easy A and can help boost your GPA. So being in an ensemble can be a good boost to your end GPA when you graduate college. Getting back to these choirs, I mentioned Black Chorus, where that's going to sing a lot of traditional gospel music. Your chamber singers, your oratorio society, those are going to be your some of your high level choirs. Varsity Men's Glee Club, Women's Glee Club, also a little bit higher. This group right here, the other guys, this is like one of U of I's top all male a cappella groups. They actually have like albums out on Spotify that you can listen to. So it's your small chamber group of singers, but at a very, very high level. So you may find that at other colleges as well too. And it's, again, finding about the ensemble that kind of suits you. And you also have your jazz vocal ensembles over here. We do a little bit of that with Rhapsody in the spring. This is year round, where you can sing a lot more jazz. Opera and musical theater. There's just one option here. This is our lyric theater. If you're going into opera musical theater, like, you'll definitely perform these groups, but there are, you might be able to get like a minor role in a musical. They may be looking for additional cast members for that. And again, that would also be a class. Jazz, ton of jazz bands here. And jazz will also fluctuate depending on the college you're at. Like U of I and Northern Illinois University, Elmhurst College, those are they have large jazz programs. Some other schools may have some smaller jazz programs. And so they have an option here for find more information about auditions. But you can see they have just a jazz guitar ensemble. They have a separate jazz saxophone ensemble, jazz trombone ensemble. And even if you were to click on big bands here, they have 4 separate big bands, or at least when I attended U of I, they had 4 different big bands. And like those top bands, just like the Illinois Wind Symphony or our Wind Symphony, are like reserved for those higher players. But that your 4th jazz band, which is still going to be good, it's still going to be a fun experience. That's more, again, if you just want to keep playing as a hobby, if you just want to be more involved in jazz and just keep up those chops. Low commitment level, lots of fun. Still take it as a class, still got to show up and get graded on it. But that's where, like, even like I just wanted to do jazz for a semester. I was not a huge jazz person in college. But I wanted to try and get a little bit more experience in it, and you don't need to do it every semester either. You can go in and out. I do also want to make mention here, doesn't really fit well in this jazz core category, but you have this hip hop collective. We are seeing more hip hop classes pop up at the college level, and even more professors who are being hired specifically to teach hip hop. You have your modern ensembles, and this is where it starts to get maybe a little bit weirder per se, or maybe not weird, but so you have Hip Hop Collective in here again, Illinois Modern Ensemble, different types of arrangements of instruments, not your traditional type of setup, something specifically for Latin American music. An improv group, a little bit more directed towards jazz. Early music here. This is a choir here, and then a group specifically dedicated to playing old style instruments, like classical instruments, like instruments before like a trumpet looked like a trumpet or a trombone looked like a trombone. There's a lot of history in those instruments and playing it in that type of authentic style. And I know I'm going through this kind of quickly, but again, it's just kind of give you a taste. I would hope that you would go to the college websites to click on these and read more and like, oh, I've never thought about playing in a Latin American ensemble. What is that like? Click on it, see what instruments are involved. How much should they rehearse? What does it take to be in it? And so I clicked on the world one over here. You have a Macan ensemble and a Brazilian ensemble. A lot of ones you could just join for a semester and experience, like, what is that like? And then we have our studio and chamber groups over here. A trombone choir, variety of chamber music ensembles, percussion ensemble, tuba euphonium ensemble. You have a steel band and a professional that's their IPAN. You learn to play steel drums like calypso music, or for music traditionally from the Caribbean where those instruments originated. And again, you can kind of just step in for a taste, or you can take this pretty seriously and follow these all 4 years through your college career. So yeah, lots of stuff there. But my main point here of going through those pages is there's so many options that you probably don't even know about, and just start looking at the colleges you're interested in, or even if you're not a junior or a senior looking at colleges yet, just look through those pages and start getting an idea of like, I don't know what I want to do yet, but these things look interesting, and I'm going to make a list of like, when I start thinking about colleges, these are things that are important to me. So let's jump back to these slides here. Sorry, give me one moment, readjust. All right. So why join some of those ensembles that maybe are not always apparent when we think about doing music in college? One thing is travel. Sometimes these groups go on trips. From my own experience, I mentioned this in a couple of classes, but maybe not everyone's heard this. I would get free transportation, free hotel rooms, get paid to play in ensembles. So when our basketball team was really good and we would go to the NCAA men's basketball tournament, that would be like in Chicago or Indy. Sometimes it would be in Texas or Washington. They will pay to bring a band out, like athletic space for that. You get that free trip. You get to go away with your friends for a weekend. Now you got to kind of earn those spots. You got to be in the ensemble for a little while because it's a smaller group, and they kind of will either pick like juniors and seniors who've been in the group for a while, or specific instrumentation. But travel is something big. I've also been able to go to bowl game trips when Illinois was good at football. Got paid to go to California for free. We had our own flight, like booked 2 whole planes for the marching band. And then we got to go play at Universal Studios and Disneyland inside, and we got the rest of the day in there for free. We played at that Rose Bowl game, and also when we were leaving a performance out in California, we accidentally bumped into Will Ferrell because he was rooting for the other team, and just a lot of things that can come from traveling with an ensemble. There are times I've also traveled and had to pay for that travel, but would not have always had those opportunities for me without being in those music ensembles. I took a trip to Ireland and got to march in their St. Patrick's Day parade in Dublin, Ireland on St. Patrick's Day. I paid for that trip, but like other people were taking care of all the logistics. Like I just paid for it. I went with my friends. We traveled throughout Ireland and London, and it was an awesome opportunity. A lot of times college ensembles will do those trips like once every 4 years, just like how in high school, we try and do a trip every 2 years, like as part of our recruitment. Like we were going to New York this year, we're going to go somewhere else, hopefully 2 years after that. And that's an incentive to be in the music program. College music programs have those same incentives. You also have your scholarships, and there's a lot more scholarships out there than probably what you would guess. I'm going to dive a little bit more into that in just a moment, but you can get a scholarship for playing your instrument, even if you're not going to be a music major, if you're not going to be a music teacher, if you're not going to be a composer, there's scholarships for you by just playing your instrument or singing in a group. Again, the larger the school, probably the less opportunities for scholarships because there's more competition for it, but also the larger school, they probably have more money to offer different types of scholarships. So you still got to kind of do your research, and I'm going to dive more into that in a moment. And then I would also say too, again, think back to when you transitioned into high school. Being in a music ensemble probably helped with your transition. I know we have a couple of folks on here too who just joined our music ensembles this year, but think of all the friends you have by being in that music ensemble. Think about how some of your experiences in college not in college, in high school have been easier because you've had that community of people you can rely on, you can ask questions to. The same thing happens in college. By being in groups where you have that bond of music, you will get to know the other people in your ensemble. One example that I have, again, I'm just pulling from my own experience. When I went to the University of Illinois, I did not get into the marching band right away, and I was fine for the first couple of months. I made some like freshman mistakes of like missing a class or not understanding like how the dining halls worked, and I figured it out. But my sophomore year, I made it into the marching band, and I made a ton more friends, and I felt much more comfortable being there. And I knew I could go throughout campus, and I would meet people, and I would see them in class or passing by, and I'd have a conversation. And really, my sophomore year, when I had that larger network of friends, I felt so much more comfortable from where I was at. I would say freshman year, I was homesick for probably the first semester. I enjoyed college. I wanted to be at college. And then once I got into the marching band and had that group of friends that second year, it wasn't that I didn't want to come home, but there was definitely more of like, I want to stay on campus. I want to be here for the weekend, or I started staying for the summers, and I worked, and I had some of those friends nearby, and I felt really good about where I was. So let's talk a little bit more about scholarships. I took this specific graphic that I just put up here because this graphic has been posted like relentlessly on our Illinois Band Directors Facebook group. There's Facebook groups for everything that you know. There's a Illinois Band Directors one where we ask certain questions like, how are your classes structured? Or like, what are you doing for auditions this year? Or I have this question for my principal, do you do this kind of performance? In there, colleges will also advertise, composers will advertise, and like, we have seen this over and over again. So that's why I wanted to put up here. Maybe you've heard of the University of Dubuque, maybe you have not, but this is what their school, the whole university is putting out. And right there in print for incoming students who will participate in any music ensemble at the University of Dubuque, regardless of major, there are music scholarships. So you just need to find them. And there's a lot of universities who are like this. The students just don't know how to ask for them or where to find them. So when you're applying to schools, you might want to send an email to someone at the admissions office, like, hey, I play the saxophone. Are there any music scholarships available? And you may, I'm sure there's an internal, like, I don't want to ask for money. Like, it's okay to ask for money. College is expensive. You should ask for money. If you could do anything to make college cheaper, find a way to do it. Don't feel bad about asking for the money, because if you don't, someone else who plays the saxophone will ask for that money and they will get the money. I'd rather you get the money than someone else. So you just got to ask for it. And maybe if it's not at admissions, it's emailing someone at the School of Music, or just emailing, making phone calls, and just trying to find answers. Or even coming to the directors like, hey, I would like to get a scholarship for my voice or for my instrument. How do I do that? I'm gonna go to the school. We will sit down with you and look at their website and be like, all right, it's either one of these two people you can contact, and here's how we should email them. So you just need to ask for it. And I have two examples I want to bring up right now. We've had students who have gone to Round Lake High School and gone off to Northern Illinois University. It's a very popular school because it's nearby. A lot of Round Lake students go there. And we've had several students who have gone and joined their marching band, and the marching band has paid them $1,000 just to be in the marching band for a semester. So you still get to play your instrument, spin your flag if you're color guard. You have to be at the rehearsals, you have to go to the games, you have to go to the performances, but you get $1,000 each year for being in the marching band. My second example is I was just talking with Dr. Scott Egger over at Lake Forest College, another college that's not too far, much smaller college. If you don't know him, if you know Mrs. Barnett, that's with us right now as a student teacher, she went to Lake Forest College. He was here on Tuesday observing her and see how she's developed as a music teacher. And he and I were just chatting because he's come and worked with our school before. And he told me verbatim, anyone that's in your wind symphony, Mike, we would most likely give scholarship money to. They just need to ask. So just by practicing enough to be in our top ensemble at the high school, I can call Dr. Egger and say like, hey, I've got Susie Smith here. She plays the French horn. She's in our top band. What kind of scholarships can we get her? And we can have that conversation and they would probably find you money. So there's money to be had. You just need to go and ask for, or just like start that conversation. Some colleges will have you audition for scholarships. Those are probably the more prestigious scholarships. Those are probably ones worth more money. If that is happening, know that those scholarship auditions typically happen in February or March. So let's say you are a senior right now, you've applied, maybe you already got into schools, you're trying to pick your school. You want to have a solo piece right now that you're working on to try and get maybe some more of those prestigious music scholarships. But first you got to find out if they exist. And then you got to schedule for those scholarship auditions. You don't want to wait until you get onto campus next fall and be like, I'm here, how do I audition for a scholarship? Those happen before you get to campus. So if you're not a senior, you have plenty of time. Seniors, I don't mean to freak you out, but typically February or March is when they do those auditions, and you want to start practicing for them and scheduling dates and asking questions about that. Careers in music. So I'll talk more about auditions too, since that kind of connects to scholarships. So I'm going to dive the second half is a little bit more into like, if you want to major in music, if you want, and I put up in here, you see there's different types of careers. If you want to be a music teacher, you want to work with music business, music performance is like if you want to be part of a professional band and orchestra, if you want to be gigging, composition also includes arranging music. Music technology, I want to point that out specific real quick. That is a new major that has popped up over the past kind of like 5 years. Most colleges have that degree in some fashion, even if it's just a year or two old. But obviously, as technology has exploded over the past several years, you know that there's like MuseScore out there where you can write music in GarageBand and a variety of apps and notation programs, or even doing sound mixing and sound editing. That's kind of what that music technology degree is headed towards. So it's still kind of a new degree, but it's a possibility out there. Music history, audio engineering, if you want to be behind the soundboard at live events, musicology, that's kind of studying like world music, or music therapy. Like those are your big categories. I'm going to throw another link into the chat right now. You can see this webpage I'm pulling up right now. And this is just careersinmusic.com. And let me scroll through this real quick. But if you are sitting here like, I know I want to do something with music, I don't know what kind of job I want yet, this is a good place to start. It's a very generic website, but you can see most popular music careers. It's like there's a DJ, here's a singer, music director. You can see some other ones over here on the side, and you can click on all these to kind of like learn more about them. And you may be thinking like, well, singer, drummer, like that's pretty straightforward. Yeah, but here's your audio engineer. So maybe you want to know more about like, what does it mean to work at a soundboard? Recording careers, recording industry careers, church music careers. There's a lot of different articles and things you can read on here. So just take a look at that website. If you know you want to do something with music, but you're not sure what yet, just take a weekend, turn on some music and just like read everything on this website. That will give you a much better direction of, I like this, I don't like that, I think I want to do this thing, or I think I want to do one of these three things. And if you can at least narrow down what you're thinking about, then you can go back to our school counselors or even one of the music teachers. And that gives us a better starting point for a conversation of what is the right career path for you. And you can see here over on the other end of the slide, I also put some notes here of don't just pick a career because you think it sounds good. I was just talking with another student today of like, why do you want to be a music teacher? And they just kind of stopped and thought, and I'm like, I don't know. And it's okay if you don't know. But before you start paying money for college to do something, you're going to want to know why you're going into it. So I'm not saying that the student is picking music teaching for the wrong reasons. They may just not be able to articulate it yet. So if you want to be a music therapist, think to yourself, what do you like about it? Is it like just being involved with music, or do you want to be a music therapist because you like using music to heal people? That's a better reason why to go into a music therapy degree. So ask yourself more questions like, what do you want to do with your life? Of like, I like teaching people because I like seeing people make those connections. I like helping someone achieve something that they couldn't do on their own before. That's a great reason to be a teacher. So ask yourselves those kind of questions and then go back to like, okay, here's what I want to do. What degree is going to get me to what I want to do with my life? And don't do it the other way around. I want to be a composer, and then figure out why you want to be a composer. So when you are starting to pick out your pathways, if you're going to do music as a career, start thinking about the types of colleges you want to go to. Now I know there's some seniors on here, but it's never too, there's also a lot of freshmen, sophomores, juniors on here. It's never too early to start thinking about a college and narrowing down what college you want. I describe picking a college kind of like the Netflix dilemma. We all watch Netflix, and sometimes you just sit down and you are overwhelmed by how many choices you have. And you just scroll and you scroll and you scroll. And after an hour, you're like, I don't know what I want to watch, but I wasted the hour of free time I have and I didn't watch anything. When you're picking a college for anything, not just music, you got to limit your choices. So when you're at Netflix, sometimes it's easy to say, well, do you want to watch a comedy movie or do you want to watch a drama movie? And that gets rid of a lot of choices and it helps make that choice a lot easier. So these questions I put up here on the slide kind of helps start narrowing that down. I also want to say throughout this topic and a lot of topics that I follow, I could do a whole separate Zoom on just picking a college. I could do a whole separate Zoom just on auditioning. So I know I'm kind of glazing over these things. I would also hope that maybe you're taking some notes for yourself as you're listening to this. And start for this picking a college slide, start thinking about these things and make a list for yourself of what you want out of college. So one of the first things up here is small versus large school. I already kind of touched on that. A small school, you'll probably feel more personal touch because there's less students. You'll get more time with the professors. You'll get more individual attention. But that also means there's probably be less choices for like, what dormitories you can choose from where to live, how many ensembles there are, how many friend groups there are, how many activities are also offered. So the question that Mr. Weber usually likes to pose is, do you want to be a big fish in a little pond, do you want to go to a small school, or do you want to be a small fish in a big pond at a large school? If you're okay that being around a ton of people, but having a lot more choices, the large school is for you. And what I also mean by small and large school, think about it in terms of numbers. Round Lake High School is roughly 2,300 students, 2,300. We are a larger high school when compared to most high schools. Antioch is probably about 1,000 students. Lakes High School is about 1,100. I would say the rest of the people, high schools in our conference are like anywhere from 1,000 to 1,500 students. You can go to colleges that are just that large, but those music ensembles are going to be pretty small. The University of Illinois, in comparison, when I went, had 44,000 students. Granted, that's undergraduate students, that's graduate students, your doctoral students, but it's a very large campus and it can feel overwhelming. But I liked it because I really wanted to be in the marching Illini. I wanted to go into music. I had several friends who were going there. And when I also talk about student activities, thinking back a couple slides, they have over 300 different student organizations. So think about the different clubs we have at Round Lake High School. Like you have your chess team, you have art club, you have your I'm forgetting the academic team. Sorry, that was what I was trying to hit on. So we have all those clubs. I would say we probably have 20, 30 clubs at around like high school. There are 300 of those kinds of things at the University of Illinois. So maybe that appeals to you because you want a whole lot of different choices, a lot of different more experiences to choose from. For the next question, what do you want out of your musical experience? So you went through your large and your small school, think of what you want to get. What do you want out of that musical experience? Do you want to be part of a really big band? People who participate in our marching band, usually like that larger full ensemble sound, or do you like a time when we're doing either singing Valentine's in choir or solo and ensemble in band, and like you're with a small group of people? That kind of goes back to looking at all the different music ensembles that are listed on a college website. What appeals to you? So maybe you want to be in a marching band in college. So you got to find a college that then has a marching band, because there's colleges that don't have marching bands. Maybe you want to be in any choir. So you're just looking for a school that has a good choir program. So ask yourself that kind of question. Does the college have the major you want? So even if you're not going to major in music, make sure that you're choosing a school for your primary reason, because you're going to college to be a student. You're not going to college to be in a music ensemble. That's a nice pro. That's a nice addition. But just like how in high school, like you're not in high school specifically for band. I love that you're all in band or choir and you love your musical experience. That's an important part of your high school experience. But you are in high school to get good grades and be prepared for later in life. So remember what the first priority is in college. So whatever you want to do as a career, make sure that college has that major you want and is a really good program, so you know once you're out of college that you're going to be successful. And then you can, again, when we talked about narrowing down that Netflix dilemma, choosing a comedy or choosing a drama. Once you know the colleges that has that major you want, then you can go, okay, of all those colleges, which one has a marching band, or which one has a good choir program, or has good jazz? And then one of the last points on here, how much scholarship money are you getting? Again, that's smaller schools can probably offer you some more opportunities at scholarship money because there's less students to compete with. Also know that you can go back and forth between colleges. Let's say you've applied to colleges, you got accepted, you have your two top choices, and school A is giving you $10,000 a semester. School B is giving you $12,000 a semester. But school A is your top choice. It is okay to shoot an email like, hey, school A, you're my first choice. I really want to go here. However, I'm starting to lean towards school B because they're giving me $12,000 a semester. Is there any possible way you can match that? And school A may come back and say, oh, no, we really want you here. You're a good student. We said $10,000. We'll actually give you $15,000 a semester now. Now, I'm just making up those dollar amounts, but I'm telling you, it is okay to do that bargaining, to pit those two schools against each other. Again, it's what I talked about before with scholarships. If you don't know those scholarships exist, there's no chance to get them. Ask those questions. So it's always possible to get more money. Worst thing that happens of school A that was given $10,000, they say, sorry, we have no more money to give. We're very sorry about that, but that answer is a no. And that's okay. Maybe you can still go with school A and take that less money, but you still ask that question before you made that decision and see if you could get more money. So do the financial research before you make your final decision on picking a college. Auditioning. This is a large part of either auditioning to be in an ensemble. So going back to non-music majors, you just want to participate in music and have fun with it. Some ensembles you need to audition for. I pointed out some of those bands on UVi's website that they're audition-based ensembles. So if you want to not major music, but still need to do the higher ensembles, you'll still need to do an audition. A lot of college marching bands, you need to do an audition. For some of us, the word audition may sound scary, and it can be overwhelming if you've never done it. But just like anything else we do, we get stressed out with the things that we're not familiar with. The more you audition, the more comfortable you'll be with it. Same thing with like playing a scale and band or singing part of a group. It's really nerve-wracking at first when you don't know what you're doing. But for a lot of us, now that we've done it over and over again, you can do it on a daily basis and it doesn't bother you. So when you get ready to audition, you make sure that you're practicing for that audition, putting yourself into that scenario. Before you go off and do a college audition, come get one of the music teachers, say like, hey, I have an audition coming up next month. Can we do a mock audition? Can you listen to me play and give me feedback? You need to do those things. And that's not meant to scare you. That's just meant to prepare you for those auditions so that you don't mess up in that moment. Because you also don't know who's going to be in that room at that college when you audition. It could be one person. It could be a panel of 5 people. It's quite possible. So when you are starting to figure out if you're going to audition or not, there are some things you need to know. You do need to sign up for that audition. Just because you apply to a college, just because you apply to a school of music, does not mean you're automatically signed up for an audition day. Or let's say you're not going to be a music major, you just want to go be part of a college marching band. You need to find that sign up and sign up ahead of time. So if you're a senior right now, you should be looking on those college websites, on those college marching band websites, or any other ensemble, and seeing when those audition dates are. A lot of them happen in the springtime before you get onto campus. Watch your emails, check those websites. Number 2, picking your music. Some colleges for a music major will have a preferred list or a required list of music that you should play. Again, it's that Netflix dilemma of like, what do I play for my audition? I've never done an audition before. That's okay, don't worry. Go to those websites and see if they list anything first. And even on those websites, you may go to like, again, I know I keep using U of I as the example, but it's just what I'm familiar with. University of Illinois School of Music may have like audition details, but not have a preferred list. But let's say you're going to audition on trumpet. You then probably need to go to the trumpet page on the School of Music website and see if they list anything. Or if you're a percussionist, what's the percussion page list? Because different teachers, your trumpet teacher, your percussion teacher, your voice teacher, will have different expectations for an audition. So you need to do research on what do they call the studio. At a college level, like your group of trumpets, your group of tuba players, is the tuba studio, is the trombone studio. That's just some new terminology that you should also familiarize yourself with. So picking that music, check those websites first, or email the professor like, hey, I'm a junior, I'm thinking about audition next year. Do you have any recommendations on what you like to hear for your audition? And probably also before you email the professor, make sure you've checked out the website. So you can say like, I've gone through the page, I can see you want something that's lyrical and something that's more technical. I'll talk about those 2 terms in a moment. But is there any type of piece that you specifically like to hear? Do you have any other recommendations? And they may come back and say, thank you for asking. I actually really like to hear these things, or no, anything will do. Maybe pick it out of one of these 10 solos. Doesn't really bother me a whole lot. But at least you're asking those questions. They can give you some guidance. Always pick your music sooner rather than later is my next point. If you're a senior, pick some stuff now. You know, pick some music right now. And I know you probably wish you heard that earlier. Sorry. Pick it now because auditions are in the spring. If you need help picking it, come to me, come to Weber, come to Olson, come to Urquhart. We'll help you out. If you are a junior or younger, pick your music by the end of your junior year because you want to kind of be comfortable with it. You're going to live with it for several months. You want to like it. And I would work on it over the summer. Like that's your time to really witch at it because you know once school starts up in the fall, things get busy and things get distracting. Use that summertime, just slowly chip away that music. But pick your music by the end of your junior year. Audition days, I already talked about the scholarship audition days. If you're going to be a music major, your music audition will also be in February or early March. Plan them appropriately too. If you're because in February you may not know what school you're going to. You maybe have your top 3, 4, or even 5 schools you're still choosing from. You may audition at multiple schools. For example, when I was auditioning my senior year of high school, I had it down to Western Illinois University, Michigan State University, and University of Illinois. And then I planned those appropriately. U of I was my top choice. So I went to Western Illinois first. All right. So that's my least prepared audition. But I also didn't care if I got in or not. But it was good for me to go and use that kind of as a practice try run. I was nervous. It was my first time doing a college audition, my first time traveling to an audition. And so just going through that process, I learned a lot. Like, okay, I made some mistakes. It's not the way that I want to go. but I know what I'm doing now before I walk into the Michigan State University audition, which was my second choice. And I feel, okay, I feel more prepared. I know I want to get there a little bit earlier. I know I don't want to wear this shirt. The shirt was very stuffy, it was itchy, and that distracted me during the audition. You learn those kinds of things by going through it. And so my U of I audition was my last one. And so then I felt the most prepared for it. On the flip side of that, also make sure I would avoid choosing the last audition date for the school. So let's say your school you're looking at has 2 dates in January, 2 dates in February, and a date in March to choose from. You have 5 possibilities to choose from. I would not choose that very last date. I would choose that second to last date in February as that audition date. And here's why. Because you don't want to be at the very end of the pack, because maybe by that last March date, they've already filled up a lot of their slots. And now you're walking into an audition, competing with more people for like that very last slot. So like, let's say they're only taking 10 new trumpet players at Illinois State University. And through the first 2 weekends in January, all right, we chose 2 trumpet players. And then through the 2 weekends in February, they chose another 5, let's say 6. They chose 8 trumpets before they got to that March date. Now you're down to only 2 spots, where if you went in February, maybe you could have been one of those 5. So you don't want to do your first choice on that very earliest audition date, but I wouldn't wait till the very last one either. The same thing kind of happens for non-music majors too. Again, using U of I as an example, I also, talked to the band director of the Marching Illini a lot. He's a good friend of mine. We talk about his auditions often. He has a ton of audition dates. There's 400 people in the Marching Illini, and so they can take a lot of people, but they also have a lot of people that audition. And so when I'm talking to him in April, he's gone through a variety of auditions. He's said no to a lot of students. He said yes to a lot of students. But I want to say he has like 800 people audition for that band. So the people that audition in April probably have a little bit of a better shot. When I'm talking to him in May, he has those slots filled up. Like he can tell me like, yeah, I'm only taking 1 more clarinet at this point, or like, I have no more room for any more saxophones. So like I have talked to those college professors of hearing them fill up those slots. And then last thing for a typical audition, whether it's a scholarship audition, a marching band audition, a choir audition, anything, you want to look at those websites, but typically in a band audition, they're going to ask you to play a couple of scales, 1 to 2 prepared pieces, and some sight reading. For choir, they're probably going to ask for 2 pieces, and at least one of them is in a foreign language. They may also ask you to do some tonal skills, singing a major scale or singing a minor triad. Sometimes they may also like play a melody and ask you to sing it back. Nothing super complicated, but just recognize how well can you hear it, how well can you sing something back. And in both those categories, band, choir, with its 2 pieces, it's usually a contrasting style. I talked earlier on about a technical piece and a lyrical piece. Technical is usually something with faster notes. So for our woodwind players, something that's probably going to have a lot of runs in it, and show that you have the skill to tongue that fast, to have your fingers move that fast. And then a lyrical piece is going to be something smoother, something that's going to be more connected. You require a lot of breath support, a lot of intonation, a lot of musicality, of shaping of the line, knowing where those phrases go. So, and between those 2 kinds of pieces, that can really demonstrate how well-rounded you are as a musician. Now, when you pick those pieces, there are ways to play to your strengths. For my band folks, you pick some IMEA music that you've already done for an IMEA audition if you've done those kinds of things before. There's books you can pick from, but again, go back to those websites, contact those professors for recommendations, or come to the music teachers to pick something out. All right. We got a few more slides here. I know we're starting to go on about an hour of me talking. It's a lot of information, but again, there's a lot in here. And again, I could do a whole separate Zoom on audition. I could do a whole separate Zoom on picking a college. But I'll try and wrap some of these up and make sure you have some time to ask some questions if you want to. If you're going to be a music major, there's a few things that you should be aware of. And I'm also saying this as a point of, my dad did not go to college. My mom went to community college. She became a nurse, but neither of my parents went off to like University of Illinois or Purdue University or Lake Forest College. Like, they did not have that traditional college experience. So there's a lot of stuff that myself and my parents were learning for the first time. And so I made some mistakes in the audition process that I learned. I want to make sure that you don't make the same as well. I've used the terms college, university, and school of music a lot in this talk, right? And maybe you're kind of like wondering, like, what are those different things? University and college are kind of interchangeable. So Elmhurst College in Elmhurst, Illinois, and Illinois State University in Central Illinois. That's in Normal, Illinois / Bloomington, Illinois. Illinois State University, Elmhurst College, same kind of thing. Just the way, like, they are equal, just the way that Round Lake High School is also a high school like Lakes Community High School, or Mundelein Community High School, or Libertyville High School. Those are all the same thing. So Illinois State University, Elmhurst College, Lake Forest College, Carthage College, University of Wisconsin, they're all the same thing. They're colleges that are located at different locations. Now, within a college or university, you may have schools or colleges, and that's where the college term gets a little tricky. Think of like College of Fine Arts or College of Engineering or School of Music. Think of that as a department. So within Round Lake High School, you have the English department, you have the math department, you have the fine arts department. So in Illinois State University, or under the umbrella of Elmhurst College, you will have the School of Music. And I'm making that distinction because when you apply to college, you will apply to that university, and there will be a separate application you need to do to the School of Music. So you need to be accepted twice. Is that fair? No, I'm sorry, it's not, but it's the way it is, all right? And so people who have not gone off to college or don't have a private lessons teacher or someone else who's walking through that will often apply to the college, get accepted, and did not realize that they need to apply to the School of Music. It is possible for you to be accepted by one and denied by the other. It is tricky, but again, you're going off to college, and if you're getting into a really good college, you got to pass these checkpoints. So when you apply to college, the university, that large umbrella, that one location, they're looking at your grades, your letters of recommendation, hopefully stuff you all know about applying to college. The School of Music is also looking at your grades, but they will ask for like probably music-specific letters of recommendation. So like from a music director, a private lessons teacher. My own experience, when I applied to schools of music and I was going to be a music teacher, I did my music audition. That's part of my application for the School of Music. But since I was going to be a music teacher, I also had a music education interview where I talked with one of the music education professors. So there's little tidbits that make a music application a little bit more specialized than your typical college application. And again, this is why I keep saying, go back to the websites, do your research, ask questions, and do it ahead of time. And so when you're going to be a music major, it requires good grades as well as being a good musician to get in, because you need those good grades to say that the overall university lets you in, and you need to be a good musician for those studio professors, your trumpet professor, your tuba professor, your voice teacher, to say this is a good musician, we want them here in our School of Music. The other thing to be aware of here, I put down here at the bottom, is application fees. If you've never applied to college before, sometimes colleges require a fee just to apply. The reason why is it cool to do that? No, more colleges are getting rid of it, which is great. But the reason why they did it before was because they processed so many applications, they need people to go through those applications. They were funding some of those people who did admissions with those fees. So again, University of Illinois, 44,000 students there, they will get thousands and thousands and thousands of applications. So each application is another like so many hours of work for someone. So they're using the application fee to pay for that hour of work for someone. So before you say, I want to go apply to these 15 schools, ask yourself, do you really want to get into all 15 of those schools? Because that may cost you 15 different times to apply. it may be better to narrow that down to, again, like a top 5. Like, these are the one, like, I feel like I could definitely get into 2. My top choices may be a reach, but these other 2, I also kind of feel like I could get into. And then that's money well spent while being fiscally responsible. Looking at a music school, there's some other things you should do when you're doing your research. And looking over here on the side, these are things that everyone is doing. And again, some mistakes that I made going into college that I wish I had done. And when I say everyone, it's students who are at Libertyville High School that are doing this. These are students who are at Vernon Hills that are doing this, who are at Hersey High School, who are at McHenry High School, like other students who want to be a music teacher or composer or whatever, they're doing these things. So if you want to be competitive with the other students who are going to the same schools, you got to do the same things. One thing is sitting in on a rehearsal. So we talked a lot about what do you want out of a college music experience. You also got to make sure that the music experience is right for you. Finding a college is about what is the right fit for both the college and for you. A college can tell you, no, we don't think you're gonna be successful here. It is also okay to look at a school and be like, I don't think you're the right fit for me. So sitting in on a music rehearsal is a good idea. You can email professors and say like, hey, I'm a junior. I'm thinking about possibly attending the school or applying to the school. Could I come see a rehearsal sometime soon? And they may give you a list of dates of like, yeah, come on by. We have rehearsal every Tuesday. Just shoot us an email of which Tuesday you're going to pick. And you can enter through these doors, and love to see you. That is a good way to also make yourself known to those professors. I have over here, find the right for you, and also make yourself visible. The more things you can do to make connections with people at that university, so when you go to that audition or they are looking at your application and know who you are, is great. Because you don't want to walk in the door for the first time and be like, hey, I'm Susie Smith, and I'm playing the flute, and here I go. But if you can walk in that room and the professor goes, Susie, great to see you again. Thanks for coming out to that rehearsal. We're just so happy to see you again. Like, how's the play? You mentioned that last time. Cool. What are you gonna play for this day? Great. And it could be a much more comfortable atmosphere. And those people are looking forward to, they're more likely gonna say yes to the application if you've already made that connection. So just visiting and sitting in on rehearsal is a good idea. Contact your studio professor. Same kind of idea. Hey, I'm interested in attending University of Iowa. I know you're the trumpet professor. I just want to know a little bit more about your studio. Are there certain things that you would like incoming students to be practicing? Are there certain pieces you'd like to be familiar with? And not only, again, are you creating that connection with that professor and getting to know them ahead of time before you actually apply, but you're also demonstrating skills of, I'm a student that cares because I'm communicating with you. I'm showing you that I'm interested in what's important to you, and I'm trying to find skills to be successful by the time I get there. I'm not waiting until the time I get to college to be successful. I'm trying to do this legwork right now. And so you're already creating this image of yourself as a mature, responsible, and high-achieving student. And again, it comes back to, they know you before you walk in the door, and they already have this image of someone like, this is a good student. I'm very interested in the student and more likely to say yes to for you to become a music major. This last point on the slide, music visits specific days. So when you look at college visits, they have big days, they have big open houses where like everyone come on in, see the campus, we got tours going on. The schools of music also have specific open house days, or even the studios, there might be like an oboe day. Hey, oboes from across the state, come on and join us today. And so the big college days are great. Go to them, visit them, but you're also gonna get a lot more detailed information specific to being a music major on those music specific days. So you could probably also have a master class with those instruments. If you don't know the term master class, it's like all the trumpets in a room, the trumpet professor there. Hey, does anyone want to come up and play for us? And like, don't feel stressed out about that. It's just kind of like having a lesson in front of everyone, play a little bit, and then the professor's like, here's what I hear. Let's all talk about this information together. Here's how we all can get better by using this music as an example. So it's, again, FaceTime with professor, you get to see the facilities, get to see different ensembles, maybe they also probably let you sit in on a class and see what's like in like a music theory lecture or a class where you're learning another instrument. So there's a lot of ways to be familiar with the college and making sure it's the right fit, but also being seen by the college before you apply. When you do these visits, there's other things to keep in mind. I already talked about the open house. It's possible to get free tickets to stuff. So let's say you're not calling up, but you're emailing the orchestra director at, I'm just trying to think of different universities. Let's go Indiana University. Hey, I'm interested in the orchestra program. Do you have any performances coming up that would be good for me to take a look at? That's a good example of what your ensemble is like. Yeah, Susie, absolutely. We have one coming up in 2 weeks. You know what? I got free tickets for you here. I'm going to leave them at will call. Just give them your name. We're excited you can come to the concert. Directors have free tickets to like everything, to their own concerts. Again, using U of I as an example, our friend Barry Hauser, who is head of the Marching Illini, he has a stack of free tickets for every single football game. So if there's a student he's really invested in, or alumni that come back, or even donors, like he can pull from that drawer. He's like, all right, Dan and Joe, thanks again for donating to the Marching Illini. We got tickets for you on the 50-yard line. Just stop by my office on game day. I'll hand them off to you. They have tickets for everything. So there's incentives to doing those visits and making those contacts. The other thing that I'll just briefly mention, I kind of talked about a cappella choirs being a student activity. Up here I have a picture of, those are Greek letters, Phi Mu Alpha. That's a music fraternity. There are other, like not just music fraternities, music sororities, but it's good to do those visits on campus to see the activities and organizations as well. I was in Phi Mu Alpha music fraternity, and I'm sure as I say that, you probably have lots of images going through your head of stereotypical fraternities of like what you see in movies. That is not what it's like. Yes, there are fraternities out there who party all the time, but a lot of the fraternities are, again, about that community, about connecting with people, and some have a specific purpose. There are service fraternities about like volunteering and giving back, and this one about music was just like about socializing and like connecting with people who had common interests in music. But again, I mentioned the University of Illinois having over 300 organizations and clubs. Going on those campus visits allow you to see some of those things in action as well. Being on like a bicycling team, or there's a film club, or just anything you'd be interested in, being there to actually observe some of their meetings or those student activity ensembles, seeing some of their rehearsals as well. One of my biggest things to hit home here is if you're going to be a music major, you got to do private lessons. We've talked a little bit about it in school, but the biggest thing you need to do, and I'm saying this as going back to what are other students doing at other schools, when we look at, like, let's say Libertyville High School, who have students who make ILEA District Festival or selected as all-state musicians, their top band, their equivalent Wind Symphony, I would guess that 80 to 90% of the students in that ensemble are taking private lessons. If you're not sure what private lessons means when I say that term, that means once a week meeting with a teacher one-on-one, and a teacher not being Olson, Weber, or Carter I, that you pay to study your instrument and practice together for like a half an hour or an hour. Now that is additional money. I understand what that means. But those students it's basically getting private tutoring. So when you think about going to the tutoring center or the help center in the high school for additional help, imagining how good you'd be at certain subjects if you did that once a week. There are students who are doing that on a regular basis. There are lots of students who are doing that on a regular basis. And that's why this is the single most important thing you can do. And I'm saying that as someone who did not start taking private lessons till their senior year. And I'm not saying this to scare you. Those three schools I applied to, Western Illinois, Michigan State, University of Illinois, I got accepted to the colleges. I did not get accepted to any of those schools of music because I was not prepared as a musician. Now, I'm not saying that to decrease your confidence in me as a music teacher. Once that happened, I worked my butt off and I re-auditioned the following year to become a music teacher. But I would have been so much more prepared if I took private lessons, at least starting my junior year, if not starting my freshman year. Because now I have up here, as it says, it's dedicated practice time. It's teaching me how to practice the right way. It would have built up more confidence before going into those auditions. You have an individual teacher who you're working on some of those insecurities, and that's being vulnerable, and it's figuring out how to develop those skills, but it makes you so much better and so much more confident with your music because you've gone through it again and again and again. It is someone who's also there dedicated to you. That's your like can be your main resource of helping you pick out that audition music. That is someone there who is like helping you figure out how to schedule those audition times. Weber, Olson, Urquhart, and I can still do some of those things, but we can't do it for all 300 students who are in the program. We just don't have enough time in the day. So we are there to help, but having that individual person who is there to talk through those things and really go through step by step really makes you feel much more comfortable before you get to audition day to ask all those what if questions. And really, if you're taking private lessons, it is going to increases your chance of making it tenfold. All right. There are ensembles I got into and I did well in the audition, but I know as a younger music student, I squeaked right by. I was not like, yep, I got in. I was on that fence of being let in. The private lessons is the single best thing you can do for yourself if you're going to be a music major or want to get into a music ensemble. And then right here, this point too, I want to hit home. Colleges want you to be really good at one instrument. If you want to learn other instruments, great, that's fine. Do it as a hobby. If you go to an audition, you say like, yeah, I wasn't that great on my oboe audition, but I also know bassoon, saxophone, clarinet, French horn, and trombone. Those are all right. That's great, but you don't have the music skills to be really good at what we need you to be. Because if you're going to be like a music teacher or or composer, they're going to teach you how to play all the other instruments. They want a really high level of musicianship at one instrument because you can easily apply that to other instruments. Other things you can do if you're like want to go be a music major and like really do well at that and be prepared for auditions. Things you can do at the high school level: take solo and ensemble more seriously. Make sure you're leading those rehearsals, you're picking out good music, that you're not squeaking right by the last second for those summatives, but like you're going to get high marks on the chamber ensemble or choose a solo for extra credit. Prepare for ILEA auditions next year. We already have that music ready to go. Be part of those other ensembles that are going to push you to be a higher musician. Go to a summer music camp. On our old website, and we'll get this back up soon, we list music camps that are like within a 200-mile radius. A lot of kids know Smith Walbridge, but go to ISYM, Illinois Summer Youth Music Program. Look at other colleges that host their own music camps. And then just perform as much as you can. The more you sing, the more you play, the better you're going to be. So maybe you don't love jazz, still be in jazz band. That's more time that you're playing your instrument. Maybe you don't love being in Rhapsody, still go sing in it. It's going to make you a better musician. You're still going to be with friends. You're still going to have a good time. You don't have to absolutely love every single note of every single measure. But if you want to be better at music, just perform more. That is the quickest way that I get better. Like when you're in college, you're performing all the time because you have your private lessons. You have at least one ensemble you're in. There were times where I was in probably like 4 different ensembles, and I was playing my instrument 2 to 6 hours a day. Just pure time spent playing, you're gonna get better. 2 to 6 hours doing that much a day, no matter what the skill is, you're gonna get better at it. My last slide here. I know this is a little bit of a long Zoom, but again, a lot of information. Kind of rough timeline here. So no matter what year you are right now, this is roughly kind of what I would follow. There could be a much longer checklist here, but if you're a freshman and you're thinking about going into music as a career, just start exploring those careers. Go back to that second website I put in the chat and look at what kind of career do you want? What do you want to do with your life? And narrow it down to just a couple of choices. And start looking at some summer music camps. Go away and go to a summer music camp and explore other college. Like that's also a great way to do a college visit. These camps are at those college campuses, so you can see some of those teachers because those teachers run those camps, and you can start forming some of those opinions. And I can see I flipped 2 and 3 around here. So sophomore year, find a private lessons teacher, start taking private lessons. We do have a list up on our website, on roundlakemusic.com, that has some local area private lessons teachers for voice and for instruments. So you can just shoot them an email or give them a phone call like, hey, I'm Susie Smith. I play the clarinet. I'm interested in private lessons. What's your rate? How much do you charge for half an hour? And do you have any openings? And begin that conversation. And then once you find someone you like, start taking those private lessons. Junior year, really start ramping up. You should be taking private lessons steadily. You should be picking your music by the end of the year. And then throughout that junior year, you should be looking at those colleges, going to visits, do a test lesson. That's also something in terms of contacting professors of like, hey, I found your information on the Illinois State University website. I see you're the trombone professor. I'd like to take a lesson with you. Do you have any openings? And you will need to pay those professors because that's their job, that's part of their time. But that's also a good kind of dip your toes in the water of like, let's take a lesson together. And you may walk away from a lesson like, that is the best teacher I've ever met in my life. I want to go to this university. Or you may walk away from that lesson of, that person was an awful human being. I do not want to spend 4 years and a whole bunch of money with them. So the junior year is kind of like testing everything out and narrowing down your choices. And then senior year, in the fall, complete your college applications and your school of music applications. Start scheduling those auditions. Practice your butt off in the fall. You should be knowing your audition piece inside and out and performing it for anyone. Pull me in, play your audition piece for me. Pull Mr. Olson, hey, listen to this audition piece. Mr. Weber, hey, listen to this audition piece. Hey, random concert band kid, listen to the audition piece. Baby off the street, listen to this audition piece. Play your audition piece for everyone so you get better. And then in the spring, you're just going to do your auditions because you're well prepared for it. All right. I know that was a lot of information. And again, it's recorded if you want to go back to it. Anyone have any questions about anything I said? I know it was a lot again. Throw it in the chat or unmute yourself and feel free to speak up. I have the rest of the evening open if you want to ask me anything you want about music in college. If you're typing in a question, great, go for it. But if you don't have any questions, you can peace on out. I'll hang around for a little. Oh, we got a question here. If you play 2 instruments that you are equally as good at, can you still play both in concert band? Yes. So this is actually something that music teachers do often when they're studying to be music teachers. You'll play like your primary instrument to audition for a higher ensemble, for a higher band. But then a lot of them, as they're learning new instruments, or like you said, one equally as well, they'll play what we call a secondary instrument at a lower level. So like I was my trumpet in a higher ensemble because I'm still trying to push those music skills as high as I can get them. But because I know I'm eventually going to teach clarinet, I played clarinet in one of those lower a semester, really go through a lot of music. Okay, I gotta figure out these strings. How do I get a better tone? I did that on clarinet. I did that on percussion. Like a lot of people will choose instruments that they're not as good at to just get that face time and play it over and over again. Good question. Keep throwing those questions in the chat if you want. Or if you're pretty tired and you feel like you got all the information you need for tonight, you can peace on out. Come back to me with questions tomorrow if you want, or shoot me an email. Again, I know it's a lot to process. There's a lot of information. At this point, I do think I'm probably going to schedule another Zoom just on auditioning and go into that a little bit more in depth. Don't know when yet, but I think that's probably going to be something good in the future. And in case you just have the device going on at home and you walked away and you're just coming back, put your questions in the chat if you have them. If you're done for the evening, you got all the info you need. Great. Thank you. Have a wonderful evening. I will stop the recording here, but I'll still be staying on if you have more questions. We do have another question that came up in the chat. And that is, does the scholarships also apply for other career paths you have in mind, like the money? There are other scholarships in other majors, and I would do the same thing of just contacting the colleges of what scholarships are available. A lot of times with other majors, it's merit-based, merit being like how well you have performed in school. So like, let's say you're going to be an engineer and you contact the engineering college. They might give you a scholarship based on merit of like, how well did you do in your physics class or calculus class? So those are possible. I would just start by talking with admissions and just asking what scholarships are available. And like, they'll probably have a list and start directing you towards the area within your certain career path.